That's no man. That's a leprechaun.
Leprechaun? Well, hang him by his feet and beat him like a piñata till the gold falls out.
Huh?
Yeah, with this rainbow trout.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Gold doesn't come from leprechauns.
It doesn't?
No. Gold comes from China. Oh.
Machinima was a term coined in the late 90s to define the increasing amount of short films created in video games. It has been described as filmmaking redefined. But what exactly is it? Put simply, Machinima is animated filmmaking within the real-time 3D virtual environment of a video game. It grew out of what is known as demo scene, which is a non-interactive 8, 16 or 32-bit computer art run real-time on a computer like the Commodore 64. The art was mostly just to show off the artist's talent, but occasionally they would tell a story. Not a lot carried over from demo scene to Machinima, but two main words unite them: real-time. This is the difference between Machinima and traditional 3D animated films like Shrek. Whereas Shrek is built over time, Machinima is shot in real time using existing elements, much like a live-action film. This is because the building process has been completed for you by the game developer. So think of it like you're shooting a live-action film in virtual reality. The very first Machinima didn't have any stories or plots. They were simply recordings of the player playing the game. Referred to as speed runs, these replays have been created since the early 80s on a range of different computer systems. The first game a story-based Machinima was made with was called Quake. Quake, like most other games, had an inbuilt game recorder for recording speed runs. However, in 1996, a young player would use this to create the infamous Diary of a Camper. The film was short, had no sound, and was rather primitive. However, it would start a trend of what were then called Quake movies. Whilst many of these Quake movies were very simple, there were a select few who created more ambitious projects. Film like Apartment Huntin' changed how seriously people would take Machinima. Whilst it was a comedy, the film showed off structured camera movement and a well-written script, something that most other Quake movies were lacking. Quake movies were around for quite a while, spanning over the sequels Quake 2 and Quake 3. However, as more powerful and better-looking game engines came out, the community moved on. Most moved on to the games which were using the modified versions of the Quake engine and a new engine called the Unreal Engine. One notable film is Anachronox. Based on the video game of the same name, this Machinima was created by one of the developers and a noted cinematographer, Jake Hughes. The film had a running time of 2.5 hours and featured an involving and exciting storyline.
You know they are, Mr. Matavastros. Yeah, I know you. I practically lived in your museum 2 summers ago. So, who's the meat puppet?
He's my tough guy. Ignore him. Tell me, did you calibrate
This film,
against
along with many
frame
others at the time, prompted a certain Machinimator named Paul Marino and many other Machinima groups to found the Academy of Machinima Arts and Sciences 2002. It is a non-profit organisation designed to help increase the awareness of Machinima. They hold an annual awards ceremony every year to help recognise notable Machinima and Machinimators, which are known as Mackies. As complicated as all this sounds, it's actually rather simple. With a little bit of practice, anybody with access to video games can create their own films. However, it has been argued that films shouldn't be created this way. The thought that a single person can create this level of content worries directors such as Steven Spielberg, and they fear it will lead to a degradation in quality.
Basically talking about art anyway, and who's to say, you know, that film is only created in a certain way. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but in terms of quality, I guess, can be, quite, how do you say it? Well, there is no quality control in this as such, you know, if everybody keeps on doing it.
I think it's good because it gives people who don't have access to all the money an opportunity to make potentially, you know, films that other people can enjoy, and they don't need the money or the access to the equipment, and they can make something just as good from their home in much less time, you know. Yeah, get access through the internet, it's good, yeah.
So how does someone actually create Machinima? The same way you'd create a conventional film with a camera. But no ordinary camera, it's a virtual camera. The virtual camera can be many things in the game world. For some games it's an object accessible through an in-game editor or hidden code. For others it's simply from the view of the player with the gaming interface or heads-up display removed. Since this virtual camera is rarely an actual object, it can literally be anywhere in the game world and move in ways that are ultimately impossible in the real world. Whilst this can be seen as an advantage, not everyone sees it this way.
It kind of gives away the feeling that there is a camera there. I think that what makes good film is that you don't perceive the camera.
Because I think it opens more possibilities. You can use all the basic normal film techniques with your cameras, but it also brings in shots that would normally be impossible and make them possible in the game world. So I think it opens it up and makes more possibilities. Yeah.
Regardless of what you do with your camera, you still need a way to record. While most modern games come with a command to record what you see on the screen, some older ones require you to use a third-party program such as Fraps. Both of these record what is displayed on the screen, much like a VCR, except instead of recording to a tape, it creates a video file on your computer for later playback. Like a conventional film, you need more than the camera to get the job done. Virtual actors, props and background objects can all be placed along with the original material from the game. Once these things are placed, only a very basic level of code knowledge is needed to direct the actors. On the basic level, making machinima is very simple. However, like conventional film, a certain level of understanding is required to create something of quality. However, a video game called The Movies aimed to make machinima easier. This was the first game to be created specifically for the purpose of creating machinima.
This is very good because it allows anyone who has never heard of machinima or who, once again, does not have the facilities to make their own films to get in the industry and learn just anything about making films. And then when they've reached the limits within this game world, they can then move on to traditional machinima where they actually learn to manipulate the actual game themselves and make more of the stuff they couldn't do in the movies. So yeah, I think it's good. And I think even for film it's good because it allows people to get in early and practice techniques and get ideas which then they could go on and apply to film in the future. So
The Movies is much more limited than other games where with a little knowledge you can create some great work. The future of machinima is unclear at this point. While very popular on the internet at the moment, the low level of professionalism in most of the films is a concern.
In terms of commercial interest in it, I don't see many stations picking up, like, say, Channel 10. I don't see them doing a machinima show or something like that. But certainly, I think definitely like stately run channels like ABC or something could probably do something like that. Have an hour show every week with machinima or something, and that would actually be a pretty cool idea. You know, get the viewers sending in their machinima and doing like a machinima show, I guess. You know, that would actually be cool.
Machinima has been seen as a good testing ground. For as little as $100 you can create a film and experiment with things that in the real world would cost millions. A select few make money with machinima, but it's certainly not a stable career path, even less so than conventional film. Can machinima replace film?
it would not work. People wouldn't agree, I wouldn't agree, it just wouldn't work. We can't have that. Films are established, and I think Machinima draws on film. It takes film and puts it into a game. It's like putting a new twist on film. If film was totally replaced by Machinima, it just wouldn't work, because film takes a lot of things you see in film and goes, hey, we can do one step better. And it just wouldn't work.